guys, and welcome back to the channel. Sorry I didn't upload any video last time. So in this video we are going to talk about the fall of Sheikh Hasina, how a government lost its initiative, which is in Bangladesh. So let's begin. So most of the people think government fall because of one big event, but they don't. They fall because of the thousands of small cracks that nobody repairs. So just like that, in Bangladesh in 2024 was one of the such case. On the surface, everything looked very stable, but the economy had grown for many years. Dhaka skyline was changing, highways were being built, and the foreign investors were arriving. To outsiders, it looked like a success story, like we all did. But some of the key affair officers and some of the intel wasn't looking like that. Because beneath that Bangladesh's impressive growth, the pressure was already building. So every year, thousands of students graduated from universities, believing it would secure them a respectful future. Instead, they entered a job market where good positions were scarce. Government jobs became the ultimate prize, not because they paid the most, but because they offered stability, status, and security. Now, imagine one thing. For one exam, for 3 to 4 years, you are preparing, and only to hear that a large share of those jobs may again be reserved for a same quota system again. So for many students, it wasn't just a policy issue, but it felt like rules had changed after game had already begun. They came Then came the spark. So in June 2024, the High Court reinitiated the quota system. On paper, it was a legal decision, but in reality, it created a psychological trigger. Students poured into campuses. At first, slogan was simple: reform the quota. No one calling it for revolution, no one demanding Prime Minister resign. This was still a policy dispute. The government at the protest and saw another routine campus agitation. Its assessment was straightforward: wait for a few days, make some arrests, classes will resume, and the movement will fade. That was the first miscalculation because the government measured the size of the protest. It failed to measure its emotion. Then came the turning point. Police confronted the protesters. Clashes erupted. Images spread across social media. Suddenly, the story, which was no longer about quotas, it became about injured students. Parents who had never attended a protest began to asking different questions. What happened to those children? The narrative had shifted, and politics, whoever controls the narrative, often controls the future. This is where the movement changed. Before the crackdown, joining the protest meant supporting quota reform. But after the crackdown, joining the protest meant standing against perceived injustice. And that's a much larger audience. Students became the symbols, universities became the headquarters, telegram groups replaced the party offices, Facebook posts spread faster than official press conferences. The government tried to slow the flow of the information. But information, once emotional, behaves like a water. It finds another route. So week by week, something subtle happened. The movement stopped belonging only to students. Lawyers joined, teachers joined, professionals joined, ordinary citizens who had never cared about quota policy began marching because they believed something larger was at stake. This is what intelligence analysts or many firms call coalition expansion. The issue was no longer mattered as much as the feeling. Now the government faced a problem it had not anticipated. You can arrest student leader. You cannot arrest the entire society. Every day, Security forces remained on street. They grew more exhausted. Every day, the protest continued. The government's authority looked a little less certain, and the power, once it began to look uncertain, weakens faster than many leaders expect. Then came the question, will security establishment remain completely united? As long as police, military, political elites, and bureaucracy move together, government usually survives. But when hesitation happens, when commanders begin calculating tomorrow instead of today, when political elites quietly wonder what's coming next, the balance changes. Not because protesters suddenly became stronger, because government becomes less confident. So by early August, Bangladesh has crossed the invisible line. The original demand has disappeared. Nobody was talking about quota percentage anymore. The movement has transformed into a referendum on legitimacy itself. The PM still possessed the formal instrument of power, but authority depends on more than institution. It depends on belief, and belief had eroded. So on 5 August 2024, Sheikh Hasina resigned and left the country. To any observer, it looked sudden, but to some of them, it was the final chapter of the process that had begun months, perhaps years earlier. The quota issue was never a true cause. It was merely the match. The fuel had been accumulating for long term. The frustrated youth, shrinking political space, economic anxiety, centralized power, and the growing sense of among many citizens that institution was no longer listening. One spark met a room already filled with gas. The explosion seemed instantaneous. It wasn't. It had been building all along. So, some of the summary is never judge a country's stability by how quiet it appears. Judge it by how many unresolved pressures exist beneath the silence. Revolution rarely begins on the day one of the first process. They begin years before. The grievance accumulate faster than institutions can absorb them. And this was a very simplified version of the report. If you want to have a very detailed analysis, you can check out my next video, which is a detailed in-depth video on this topic. How does the regime change of Sheikh Hasina? If you like this video, please drop a comment, and yeah, thank you.